lifting the atmosphere here to something really positive and faithful on this Wednesday morning. What a pleasure to be able to welcome to the show this morning Craig Wilkinson, best-selling author, speaker, social entrepreneur, passionate about helping men live with integrity, strength, and purpose. Good morning, Craig. What a pleasure having you on the show this morning.
Morning, great to be with you.
Well done on a brand new book, Craig. Force for Good, a bold new vision for modern manhood. I know writing a book is no easy feat, so I'm sure you feel very proud that it's actually done and out there.
Very blessed. Yeah, it's a wonderful achievement, and I'm very excited about the book and its content.
Yeah, I want to quickly touch on something, and we hear it often. I've heard about it, I've spoken about it, and people ask me about it, and I can never get my head around it, and you're an expert. How would you define toxic masculinity? I know that feels like a negative way to launch into this, but I feel like that's a good place to start.
Well, I think you've got to start from the standpoint that masculinity is not toxic. It's a beautiful gift to humanity.
Yeah.
What we call toxic masculinity is masculinity gone horribly wrong. It's not true masculinity. It's not godlike masculinity at all. It's when it has gone horribly wrong. Strength is a sacred responsibility. So whatever strength a man has, be it physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever the case, economic, is a sacred responsibility to be used for good in the service of others. And I think toxicity comes when that strength is misused for bad, or he fails to use it and does nothing in the face of evil.
Yeah.
So I think passivity is not masculinity, and neither is aggression and dominance. Masculinity is in the service of others.
In the comments that I've read around your book, you've said men are made to be dangerous and the world is a safer place for it. That sounds like a little bit of an oxymoron, but can you help us? I mean, I know it doesn't go quite in line with toxic masculinity, but God has created men a very particular way, but it's like we need to find a path to live that out in a healthy way.
Absolutely. Well, we are made to be dangerous to the danger, so we are made to stand up against whatever's evil and wrong in the world. And that's the strength we have. So unless we're dangerous to whatever is dangerous, we're pretty ineffectual as men. If we're harmless men, we can't really do any good for the kingdom of God or for our loved ones because we don't have any capacity to do that. We need to be able to be dangerous to the enemy. If you think about the Allied forces, they stood up against the evil of Hitler. They were dangerous. The Allied forces were dangerous. They had incredible firepower and will, and they blasted the enemy out of the sky. Unless they were dangerous to the enemy would have prevailed. And in that sense, we as men need to be as effective as we possibly can be, and as strong as we can be, and as dangerous as we can be to the enemy.
Yeah. Around your book, Force for Good, I'll touch on that again in a moment, but I just feel really drawn into where we are as a nation. We carry some terrible statistics with femicide rates sitting in South Africa at 5 times the global average.
Right.
Where do we sort this out? I mean, we clearly have an issue with men, but where is that issue? Where's that disconnect? Where's that inability to understand how to treat women appropriately or children appropriately or act out our masculinity in a godly way? Where is that disconnect that's leading to this crisis?
It's a great question. You've got to say, no boy is born an abuser. It's not the natural state of masculinity to be abusive. So the question you've got to ask is, what goes wrong on the journey from boy to man? And that's where the answer lies. We have a massive fatherless crisis in South Africa. We have mass unemployment. We have generational cycles of violence and disconnect of family. So boys are not being raised by older men and inducted into positive, godly, healthy masculinity. There's a lack of present and engaged fathers, a lack of male role models. And this is the big problem. Young boys look to older men to model to them and teach them how to be men, good men. And when men grow up without that, they grow up wounded. And I think this is the key issue here, is wounded masculinity, men who are wounded in their ego, wounded in their psyche, have a deep sense of inadequacy, and there's a need to prove themselves, a need to dominate. And secondly, it's a misconception about what it means to be a man. Jesus Christ was the ultimate, he modeled the ultimate masculinity. He was the most powerful being on the planet. but he served, he washed feet.
Mm.
And that's what masculinity is. It serves, it grows its strength and power, but it serves. And when you don't have older men modeling that and teaching that, and when you have a society that has a whole bunch of wrong messages about what it means to be a man, you get a major problem. Wounded men with a false sense of what it means to be a man. And I think and you add to that unemployment and socioeconomic challenges. It's the perfect storm. And that's what we're facing as a nation.
Yeah, that is quite serious. I was watching the movie The Forge. I'm sure you've seen it, by the Kendrick brothers movie, and there was this frustrating moment where the mom, who was a single mom trying to raise a son who was sort of acting out a bit rebellious and a bit uninvolved in what's happening in the home and not being helpful and being a teenage boy
Yes.
without guidance. But she said something very powerful. She said, "It's not my responsibility to call out the man out of this boy of mine." And I was struck by that. It's like the role of dads, men, fathers, mentors. Like, we can never underestimate the power of that to see men become who they're supposed to become.
Absolutely crucial. One absolutely crucial. Masculinity is imparted by an older man to a younger man. It's
Mm,
modeled. I like using the example of a motor vehicle. A motor vehicle is a great gift to all of us. We use them every single day, but it's also very dangerous.
yeah.
Unless you know how to drive a car and drive it within the rules, it's dangerous. Tens of thousands of people die every year in a car. But you need someone who knows how to drive a car to teach you how to drive a car. You can't learn that from a YouTube clip or some sort of textbook. And masculinity is the same. A beautiful gift, but if used incorrectly, can be dangerous. And it needs someone who's learned how to drive this thing called masculinity in a godly way to teach a young boy how to be a man. And in the absence of that, we have problems.
Mm. In your book, Force for Good, you say that the time is urgent. This is an urgent time to be able to teach, equip, and inspire boys so that they can live strong, healthy masculinity. I know we know that this is what needs to happen, but it isn't happening and it must happen. So, how do we practically, realistically actually do something about this?
Well, Brett, I think we need to really push to start a revival of authentic masculinity. At the moment, masculinity is very much under the cosh. It's been
Mm,
demonized. These hashtags, men are trash. We've got the concept of toxic masculinity. So boys are growing up on the back foot, feeling a little bit uncertain and confused about their masculinity and thinking, well, maybe masculinity is a bad thing.
mm,
And I think we need to start a revival to say, and change the narrative, say masculinity is a beautiful gift. But we need to look at ourselves as men, and we need to start this in the church and start this with good men to rise up and say, we need to firstly live Christ-like masculinity ourselves. We need to be excellent husbands who love and serve and protect and provide, excellent fathers, excellent mentors, excellent servants, leaders, and citizens as men, and then really begin to increase the noise and the narrative around
mm.
masculinity is beautiful, but it can also go wrong. And this is what it looks like when it is beautiful. Let's live it and let's influence it.
Yeah, so it starts with us as men, but if we're looking at a broken society, and you've mentioned some of the challenges that are out there in the South African society, how do we step into those broken spaces? Who steps into those broken spaces? We want to create a movement, but right, that we actually just need a physical person standing in front of another person. How do we do that constructively? I mean, is that even possible?
Oh, look, it is possible. It sounds cliched, but it has to start with me
Yeah.
and with you, with us as men, as individuals, modeling the way and then beginning to cause ripples in our communities. John Eldridge wrote a beautiful book called Wild at Heart, and
Mm,
he says the opposite of masculinity is not femininity. The opposite of masculinity is passivity. So when we're silent on these issues, so it starts with being that man, being a godly, Christ-like man, living it,
mm,
purity, honesty, excellence, servanthood, dealing with whatever issues we have in our own lives, whatever baggage we carry from childhood, whatever wounds, whatever issues we have, dealing with that, very openly. It then extends to us forming a band of brothers. The research
yes.
is very clear that most men are lonely.
Yeah.
We're lonely because we don't have men in our circle that we can truly be open and honest and vulnerable with. And as you develop a band of brothers and have healing conversations and vulnerable conversations, you then begin to find healing and wholeness, but you also find a band of brothers that can then strengthen each other, sharpen each other, hold each other accountable to begin to influence your immediate circles and environments. And I think God has placed men and women in very key positions throughout the country. And the more we step up into those and become that man that God made us to be and develop that band of brothers, the more influential we're going to be within our circle.
Yeah.
And that circle will then grow and begin to expand beyond.
Yeah, I love that. Craig Wilkinson is the author of Force for Good, A Bold New Vision for Modern Manhood. It's a book you need to have in your home for the dads and the men in a home to read and to share what they can with the boys and the men that they mentor, that they father, that they parent. So there should be one in every home. Just want to also say Christmas is coming, and if you're looking for something, you'd look no further than this. Craig, where can we get our hands on your amazing new book?
It's available in all leading stores, exclusive books. It's on Take-A-Lot, Amazon, so pretty much available throughout where you find books sold.
Yeah, let's go and get that. And if we want to follow you on the socials and get some more information and follow you and some of the amazing things you're sharing and thinking about and talking about, where can we find those things?
Thanks so much. It's Craig Wilco. We're on Facebook, and so it's CraigWilko. On all the different social media channels. That's the handle.
Craig Wilco, go and have a look at that. And it starts with us. Dads, men listening, it starts with us. No more excuses, no more even saying, but this is how I was raised. We're still around. We can still be teachable. We're still open to change, to taking a next step in the right direction, to see things turn around. It starts with us. Craig, thanks for your time this morning. It's awesome connecting with you. Thanks for an amazing book. And hopefully we don't take too long before we get to connect again. Take care.
Thanks so much, Brad. All the best. God bless.
Thank you, Craig. God bless you. That's Craig Wilkinson. We didn't even get to chat around Father a Nation, so go and check that out online as well. He's a best-selling author, speaker, award-winning social entrepreneur, passionate about helping men live with integrity, strength, and purpose. Man, hits me right here in the solar plexus. I'm so passionate about this stuff myself. And that thing that Craig said about brotherhood, about lonely men, about men needing to come together to support one another. We need to create opportunities at fellowship. Women, you do such a great job of getting together and sharing and talking. We are not so great at it, but I think we're getting better, but we can do a whole lot more. So guys, if there are opportunities to meet, to get together, to just be there for one another, to support one another, even if it is just to listen, even if it is to draw out stuff from guys that don't really want to talk a lot, let's take that responsibility very, very seriously. It does begin with us. We can't wait for Craig to do it. He can just tell us what we need to do or guide us on how we could do it better and show us Jesus. We need to do it. No more passivity, people. We need to be people of action. It's 8:30.
Get up and go und wait.